Hello and welcome back to the Doctor Who Marathon. I'm your host McEdam, and today we're going to be talking about The Dominators by Marvin Haseman and Henry Lincoln. Although it is important to note that when they finished the script, there were many re-edits that they had to do, and they didn't like it, so they had their names taken off from the script. So on the actual story, it's credited as written by Norman Ashby. I wonder if there's I think there's the Easter egg is that it's both of their father-in-laws or stepfathers. So there you go. And it is directed by Maurice Barry. Now, luckily for us, all episodes survive in the BBC archives. So this is probably, I think this is the second story so far in the second Doctor era that is actually complete. This story wasn't very popular when it came out. Like I said, the writers didn't like it, and so they had their names taken off it. The director wasn't happy with it. The actors weren't happy with the certain costumes and the way they portrayed certain things. As a lot, for some reason in this story, a lot of the extra characters that they put in here were actually people who used to work a lot with theatre, and this was actually their TV debut. So there's a lot of interesting facts there. So this story is known for being not particularly good. And there's actually like a quote from the director, Maurice Barry, saying that they junked a lot of Doctor Who episodes, but sadly not the Dominators. However, I can't believe a lot of people are gonna kill me here. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was fantastic. I know. It seems like a lot of these stories, especially in the 60s, are, when they're hated, I kind of like them and enjoy them. Not just because, for the more sillier moments, though this one is incredibly silly, but I do generally think it was well written and well handled. This is 5 parts, by the way. 1 episode shorter than any story from season 5. This is the first episode of first story of season 6. So what happens here is the Doctor lands on this planet that he's been before, which, seeing as he doesn't make any contrast to his face, I'm going to presume this happened back between the gap of Power of the Daleks and the Highlanders. I'm going to guess, because Jamie has never been there. And so we get the Doctor, Jamie and Zoe go to this planet where apparently these people are supposed to be really peaceful. And however, they discover that there was supposed to be a lot of radiation here, but now there's not. And there's like a destroyed house, and they have guns, and there's people who look dead. But then it turns out these people who are supposedly dead are actually dummies, and this is actually like a memorial to people who died during like a war that happened centuries ago, and the people there are actually nice. It's just they have this bit where they explode nuclear bombs every, I think, 75 years, they say, to keep it radioactive, and it serves as a reminder to the civilians that war is bad. Now, one of the biggest problems a lot of people have is these characters. These are the characters I was talking about earlier that for some reason they got very unexperienced actors, and so a lot of their performances are a bit over the top. And yeah, I can see that. And also as well, written wise, they are kind of bland. They're all written very similar, and they're very as well inconsistent. We start off meeting these characters, and there's this whole thing. It's like despite them not actually being like a planet that gets like alien visitors and stuff, they believe the Doctor and the crew being aliens to this planet straight away, and they make this whole deal for about like maybe 5 or 10 minutes about why they would believe that. It's got like their philosophy on truth and lies, and it's like in here it's like, you tell us and we have no reasons to disbelieve you, so why would you lie? And I find maybe that's a really interesting aspect, these very pacifistic characters that literally believe anything, and they could have done something really cool with it. But they didn't. As this other character, he was on this island before, and he took 3 crew members with him who died because of the villains of the piece. And he comes back saying that he's missed 3 characters, and then all of a sudden, these characters that they've built up to being a very characters with a very hard philosophy on this like truth and lie, just goes completely out the window. And they're like, oh yeah, we don't believe you. You were actually with that guy the whole time. I was like, really? In a way, it is kind of funny how they just built up this kind of subplot and do nothing with it. Literally, just as soon as a character walks in, it's like, oh yeah, let's completely forget about this big character development of our entire species. Though it does kind of go, the more pacifistic element of their characters, the fact that they are basically, they don't fight and they don't basically have like hard debates, that becomes like a big story point. As this story was written because the people who wrote it absolutely hate the hippies. Hooray! That's another story about hating hippies. A lot of 60s Doctor Who is basically about people who don't fight for themselves should basically deserve what they get, basically. Which I find really funny, but you know. And so the big contrast to our hero characters, we have the villains of our pieces, which are like these, like the Dominators, these big, chunky, tall men people, and there's these 2 characters that we get, these 2 leader characters, and they have like the henchmen, the Quarks, these small little robots that you either love them or you hate them, and they were made to be the next Daleks, the next big thing, which obviously didn't happen, but they were actually pretty popular. Despite them not appearing in the show again, the Quarks were actually pretty popular, and they appeared many times in the 60s comics back in the day, which I will not be talking about because I've never read them, but they do have a lot of comic books, so there you go, that's interesting. As for them characters themselves, the Dominators, these 2 Dominators, they keep arguing with each other, and it's supposed to be this like the tenseness of these villains that are very aggressive. They argue, they shout, and all they want to do is destroy. As one of them, literally his catchphrase is destroy. One of them, he basically just wants to, every time he sees like a character, maybe it's our heroes or maybe it's one of the civilians, he just wants to kill them. However, this other one, I can't remember any of their names, I do apologise. He's constantly like, no, we need to save the energy for the Quarks for our master evil plan. And it's cool and all, and it does kind of work for the first few times they do it. But every time they're on screen, this scene always plays out. Character A sees another, like a civilian, wants to destroy it. Another character B comes in, goes, don't kill them, we need to save energy. Character A, very well, let's our heroes get away. And that constantly happens. And for the first few times, I think it's actually written well. Then you kind of get dull with it. However, I think after about episode 3 or 4, I kind of got what this story is. It's a comedy. It's absolutely hilarious. The whole joke is that they're incompetent. And this one character, if they just listened to this character and killed all the humans' characters, then their plan would have flied by. They wouldn't even have to like consider just attacking the Doctor and stuff later on. But this other character who's supposed to be the more intelligent, the high-ranking, the more evil one, shall we say, is so incompetent that it is absolutely hilarious. Later on in the story, they capture the Doctor and Jamie, and they think that they are two civilians of the planet, and so they put them through a test to see if they would make a good slave, an intelligence test to see if they are smart and they could destroy them, or if they're stupid and could be used as slave labour. And the Doctor basically works out that this, and so he pretends to be really dumb. And yeah, when you hear that, the Doctor pretends to be really dumb. Not only, I think, is it shows this story is a comedy. In my opinion, if you watch this thinking about having a good time, I think you will really enjoy this. It's nothing deep, it's nothing too valuable, but I think it is a lot of fun. However, if you go through watching it, that scene, it's absolutely fantastic. And I think also as well, this scene also basically sets up the second Doctor very well. Because this Doctor was one of the first Doctors that had a much darker, sinister, kind of calculating back character, a version of the Doctor that we hardly see, or we do see, but it's more clouded in this comedy buffoon character, and this character who's basically childlike to everyone else's eyes. And this story really shows that element of the second Doctor. So I think, in terms of the second Doctor being the second Doctor, I think the story actually does himself a lot of justice, and it's probably Patrick Troughton's one of his greater roles. Now, it's funny as well, because that's how they escape as well. The Dominators consider them so stupid, these two, that they basically are like, right, don't interfere with us. If you come near us, we'll kill you. But if you leave us alone, you could be free. And the Doctor's like, okay, and it goes to warn everyone. So it's like, yeah, it shows that these Dominators are very incompetent. Whilst this is going on, Zoe, our newest companion, she kind of befriends these peaceful people, and we see through her eye and her viewpoint these more pacifistic civilian characters and how their society works, as she gets to meet their leaders and how they work. And I think it actually is very well handled here. And Zoe is a very well written character. I think she is probably one of the better companions of the 60s, and she wears one of their clothing, and she's kind of like, this is ridiculous. And the costumes in this are pretty laughable, especially the people who come from this planet. They got like what looks like window blinds, as like a dress, and even like the men wear it. In fact, mostly the men wear them, and it's just kind of funny. And you get these characters then, the leaders of these characters, and they debate on whether alien existence is even like a thing, and it kind of just like pads it out, but I think it's supposed to be padding out. It's supposed to be like a funny, comical scene. So let's talk about the quarks, shall we? The quarks are these stupid little machines that they got like these arms that flap like that, and they got like these football heads, and they got like diamond spikes out to them. I actually think they look pretty cool. They're very 60s, but I don't know, I think they are actually a pretty cool design in my opinion. They're definitely of their times. They're not like made to last like the Daleks, though they were supposed to be. But I don't know, something about them just strikes you. You could notice one from a silhouette, and you're like, right, that's a quark. And as well, speaking about the funny elements of this story, a fun fact: they are played by children, by kids. So when you watch a scene where like our main characters overpower one and like pushes him off pushes him to the side or pushes it on off like the cliff and stuff. You want to imagine that behind the scenes, it's technically a full-grown person throwing a kid to the floor. How is that not funny? Come on, people. But yeah, I kind of like them. Here, they are very definitely robots, and they've got like these sweet voices, and it kind of is a juxtaposition of the Dominators, who are these big, bulky men of death, and their weapons of choice. This is their weapon, by the way. They don't actually have guns of their own. They only fight with quarks, are these small little robot people, and it is absolutely hilarious, and I really wish that maybe the sixth... I think they could easily come back in New Who. Chris Chibnall, if you're hearing this, which I know you're not, bring back the quarks, please. I think they would actually really work in New Who. There you go. I've even had like an idea to have a quark on the TARDIS. I think they were one of the few villains that could actually be incorporated as like a good guy in a future story. Because here they're not even like the main baddies, they're sort of like the henchmen. So, you know, but I'm just rambling about something that's not about the story now, so let me get backtrack. The story has some of the best Second Doctor Jamie moments. One of my favourite moments is that to get to like the city of these people to where they are now, there's this base that has like a ship, like a train, a 2-seat train that goes to there and back again. And when the Doctor goes to the city to warn these people, they look on their cameras and notice that right outside the pod, should we say the pod area, there's a quark ready to kill people. And so the Doctor and Jamie go back to try and save anyone who's there, because they don't realise that Zoe is... because Zoe, they came that way and Zoe was heading that way because she doesn't know about the quarks yet. And so the Doctor heads to this island. And whilst they're happening there, Jamie and the Doctor are talking, and Jamie's like, you've forgotten about something. When we get there, how are we going to deal with the quark that's like right by basically the front door? And then the camera kind of like zooms up on the Second Doctor's face, and Patrick Troughton just absolutely nails the comedy in here. There's a great bit as well where the Dominators go to this like museum bit, and they pick up a gun that works, and they ask the Doctor to basically fire it, and the Doctor basically pretends to be an idiot and doesn't know how to fire it. So he gives it to Jamie. Now at this point, Jamie doesn't actually know about like modern technologies. I mean, he does, but in terms of this gun, he doesn't know how it works compared to his time, which, if you don't know, back in Highlander times, when you used to shoot somebody and put a stick, then the bullets and stuff, I don't know how it works myself, but you basically shoot someone, you put a stick in, and then you can shoot again. And so Jamie is like pretending to be like, right, how do you fire it? I think you put the stick in, and then he's like, but he's pointing the gun at the Doctor, who knows about these guns, and he's like, Jamie, be careful. And he's trying to like hide the fact that, you know, he actually knows about these guns. So there were some great moments here, and there's a great bit at the end where a volcano erupts, and the Doctor's basically like, oh, don't worry, Jamie, it's all safe now, apart from a volcano happening on the island. And then Jamie's like, yes, Doctor, there's only one bit you're forgetting about. We're on the island. And then the Doctor's like, oh my word, and then runs into the TARDIS. But that's actually one of the most famous bits of the Second Doctor. It's one of those moments that keeps playing in trailers and stuff. By the way, speaking of trailers, completely off topic, the trailer to this DVD is phenomenal. Makes it look like a really thrilling adventure. Highly recommend it if you're looking on DVD trailers for the Dominators. Go check it out, it's very good. And so yeah, I think it's a comedy. I think it's supposed to be silly and ridiculous, but it's, you know, a lot of people don't like this one. I can kind of see why. If you try and take it seriously, it falls apart, and the villains aren't that threatening. I think they are threatening, especially like the big, but when you consider, right, these quarks, they have to use silly little quarks, and they're incompetent, it does kind of fall flat. But I think the Jamie and the Doctor and Zoe get some of the greatest bits here, especially Zoe, who is now part of the TARDIS crew, and she basically has her own little side story, which, as I've said before, in the William Hartnell era, that used to be a big part where our companions kind of like, and the Doctor split up and then meet up again in the last story. So this is kind of like a callback to that. So, yeah, and our civilian character's a bit dull and stupid. So there you go, that's the Dominators. It's, you know, I personally really enjoyed it. I had a fun blast, and it's one of those stories as well that I find myself watching a lot. If I'm bored or, you know, looking for like a 60s Doctor Who, if I'm in the kind of mood, this is one I usually watch. So I actually highly recommend it. But it's not, I will admit, it's not for everyone. And if you want a much more serious, plot-driven story, maybe give this one a miss. So that's Dominator. So join me next time, where we go to one of the most trippiest, strangest, and bizarre Doctor Who stories that has ever come out in the 55 years that it's come out. So join me next time for The Mind Robber. See you next time on the Doctor Who Marathon.